Today's question is, since God knows everything, why do we have to live life at all? Well, this is a very interesting question, and I would like to first read a Bible verse and then answer it with an illustration. The Bible tells us in Romans chapter 8 and in verse number 29, for whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. There's no doubt that God has a foreknowledge of all things. But to understand this, let me use this little analogy. Life is not like a train. A train travels down tracks, and there's no steering wheel on a train. The train follows the tracks that are predetermined, and it just goes where the tracks lead. That would be a fatalist view of life in which God has predetermined all the events of our life. But God tells us we travel down a road, and it'd be more like the analogy of an automobile. The car is on the road of life. And there's a lot of things that influence that car. You can't just put the car on the road and expect it to travel on its own. So we have a steering wheel, and we use that steering wheel to guide us. So if the winds of life move us in one direction, we correct and we stay on that road. If the road takes a little bit of a turn or a slope, we have to adjust to that and keep the car traveling down the narrow road of life. Along that road, there are places that God wants us to view and things he wants us to see and experience. There's some wonderful places. The place of salvation is one place that God wants us to go by and hear the gospel and be saved. He'd like us to visit the place of baptism where we follow in obedience and announce our desire to live for Christ. He wants us to visit many places of spiritual growth along this road. And along this road, there may be the place of marriage and family and a lot of great things like serving God and storing up treasures in heaven. But as we steer, we're at the wheel, so to speak, and God wants us to follow that road to the destination He has planned, He's determined. And we might use another metaphor, and that being GPS. God is kind of like GPS in our life, and what He does is He gives us an opportunity to follow a road to a certain destination, and He will route us to that destination. You know, the GPS will give you turn-by-turn directions, but it won't steer for you. If you choose to turn off the path, then it can't stop you from doing it. It won't stop you from doing that. And so, similarly, God tells you which way to go, but if you choose to turn off, you'll head in the wrong direction. If you choose to steer improperly or not to steer, you could wind up in a ditch and bring harm to yourself and others. But if you find yourself off course, God's GPS will reroute you to a new path to the destination He has planned for you. And it's a wonderful thing that God allows these reroutings to take place. So He wants us to get to the destinations. He wants us to visit as many of the places He wants us to see. Now, we can choose which way we go. We can choose the destination that leads to heaven, or we can choose another destination which would lead to hell. But God won't make that choice for us. But what He wants us to do is to follow the route that He has chosen for us. He wants us to wind up in heaven, blessed of Him, with multiple rewards so that we can bring great glory to Him. But it's our choice along this life, like a vehicle, to steer in such a way to stay on the road of life that God has for us. Life is not like a train on rails with no choices. We're at the steering wheel deciding to choose to follow the narrow way of life.